Imagine someone publicly undermining you, questioning your authority, or sneering at your efforts. Most would react with anger, with apology, or with a timid attempt at justification. But what if I told you that these reactions make you weaker? That the truly powerful respond not with emotion, but with a strategy so dark, so precise, that disrespect becomes their ultimate downfall. By the end of this lesson, you will know exactly how to turn any insult into a weapon, and any challenger into a cautionary tale. Welcome, ambitious minds, to a journey into the hidden corridors of power. Today, we confront a truth that many fear to face. The world is not fair, and not everyone respects your worth. Disrespect is a poison that corrodes influence, undermines authority, and emboldens rivals. But what if you could transform this poison into a weapon? Today, you will learn how the most cunning rulers, those who embody the spirit of Machiavelli, handle disrespect in ways both unseen and unforgettable. When someone disrespects you, do not be fooled into thinking it is a simple slight, a careless word, or a fleeting act of rudeness. No, in the world of power, disrespect is never accidental. Every smirk, every whispered insult, every act of defiance is a signal, a probe into the fortress of your authority. Those who disrespect you are testing your boundaries, measuring your strength, observing how you react under pressure. They seek to see if your control over your reputation, your resources, and your influence is as absolute as you claim. To underestimate this is the gravest of errors, for power is as much about perception as it is about reality. Imagine a court filled with courtiers, all eager to find cracks in the ruler's armor. One word spoken carelessly, one glance meant to provoke, and suddenly your authority is questioned, not because it has weakened, but because you have allowed a challenge to go unchecked. Disrespect is a tool wielded by the cunning to expose vulnerability. If you fail to recognize this, you are no longer the master of your domain, you are merely reacting to the ambitions of others, and reaction is the language of the weak. The first task, then, is observation. Study those who would dare to disrespect you. Is it the result of envy, of frustration, or of ambition? Perhaps it is a calculated test, designed to see if you will act in anger, if you will reveal fear, if you will allow them to dictate the terms of engagement. Every act of disrespect carries a message, and the wise ruler deciphers that message with patience and precision. It is not enough to feel insulted. The question you must ask yourself is, what does this act reveal about the person, about their intentions, and about the opportunities it presents for you to strengthen your position? In the eyes of a Machiavellian strategist, disrespect is never an abstract affront. It is a challenge, a gauntlet thrown at your feet. It is a declaration that someone seeks to test the limits of your power, to measure your capacity for control, and to assess whether you can enforce the respect that is rightfully yours. Consider the world we inhabit. It is not a place of fairness or courtesy, but of calculation and ambition. Those who fail to understand this find themselves blindsided, their reputation tarnished, their influence diminished. The truly powerful, however, recognize disrespect as an early warning system, a signal that action must be considered before weakness becomes permanent. You must also understand that disrespect is a mirror, reflecting the true character of those who offer it. When someone speaks to you with contempt or sneers in your presence, it reveals their perception of the balance of power between you. It exposes their willingness to gamble against your patience, their belief that you are either unprepared or incapable of enforcing authority. And herein lies the secret of mastery. Once you recognize the nature of their challenge, you hold the advantage. You see clearly what they intend, and you can choose a response that aligns not with emotion, but with strategy. You become the arbiter, not the victim. Disrespect can also take subtler forms: slight delays in acknowledgement, dismissive gestures, sarcastic compliments, or the quiet undermining of your work. These are the tools of the patient and clever adversary, those who understand that brute force is unnecessary when subtle manipulation can achieve the same goal. To the untrained eye, such acts may seem trivial, inconsequential, even harmless. To the trained eye, they are indicators, signals in the dark, revealing the map of ambition, envy, and calculation. Recognizing these signals is the first step toward controlling them, and control is the essence of power. A Machiavellian ruler knows that respect cannot be demanded through words alone. It must be observed, tested, and reinforced. Disrespect is a symptom of the balance of power being questioned. It is not an act that can be ignored. For every slight ignored is a seed planted that may grow into outright rebellion or sabotage. At the same time, responding impulsively, with anger or visible offense, is equally dangerous, for it demonstrates that your authority is contingent on your emotional state rather than your strategic position. Recognition, therefore, is the foundation. You must see disrespect for what it truly is, an invitation to evaluate, to plan, to act with calculated precision, and to ultimately turn the challenge into an opportunity for asserting dominance. Consider history, where rulers who failed to recognize the nature of disrespect paid the ultimate price. Courtiers whispered, generals plotted, and advisors conspired, all because the ruler either underestimated the intent behind a slight or misjudged the consequences of ignoring it. Yet, those who succeeded in retaining and expanding power were those who first recognized the subtle signals, who interpreted disrespect as a measure of weakness in perception rather than in reality, and who waited for the precise moment to act decisively. The lesson is clear. Power resides not in emotion, but in perception, and perception is shaped by the awareness of every act, every word, every glance that challenges your authority. To truly master the handling of disrespect, you must internalize this principle. What others call insult, you must see as intelligence. What others consider provocation, you must see as a map. And what others use to diminish you, you must learn to convert into leverage. The moment you recognize the true nature of disrespect, you gain the first and most essential advantage over those who would challenge you: understanding. And understanding, in the hands of the disciplined and strategic, is the precursor to control, dominance, and eventual victory. When confronted with disrespect, the first and most crucial battle is internal. The mind races, the blood boils, and the instinct to strike back immediately, visibly overwhelms the untrained. But the truly powerful understand a simple, unyielding truth: reaction is weakness. To respond at the moment of insult is to hand control to the offender. Every display of anger, frustration, or visible indignation signals to the world that your authority is negotiable, that your composure can be shattered, and that your enemies may have found leverage over you. The greatest masters of influence, those who dominate courts, councils, and entire nations, understand that their strength is most apparent in the calm, unreadable mask they present when provoked. Consider the art of concealment. A ruler who remains impassive in the face of derision communicates a power far beyond the words spoken against them. The casual smirk, the sarcastic remark, the public slight, all these are tests designed to elicit a reaction. Those who fail this test reveal the very human vulnerabilities that can be exploited. In contrast, the ruler who masks immediate emotion transforms the insult into a tool for observation. What is the intent behind the disrespect? Who stands behind it? Who benefits from it? And what opportunities does it present? By withholding immediate judgment or retaliation, you gain clarity, for impatience clouds the mind and blinds the strategist to subtleties. The ability to conceal emotion is not mere stoicism, it is strategic patience. The moment you react impulsively, you allow your adversary to define the narrative. They have shaped reality to suit their agenda, forcing you to play on their terms. The clever strategist understands that power is a theater, and every gesture, every word, every expression must be calculated. A calm exterior is a signal to the world that your authority is unassailable, that you are not governed by impulse, and that those who challenge you do so at their own peril. Your silence, your stillness, your unflinching presence becomes a weapon far sharper than any verbal retort or public rebuke. History offers countless lessons for those willing to observe. Courtiers and generals, enemies and rivals, have tested rulers with subtle provocations, expecting an immediate display of weakness. The reaction, they believed, would validate their audacity. But when the ruler remained impervious, when the face betrayed nothing, when the eyes betrayed no hint of fury, the world recalibrated. Suddenly, the provocateur finds their power diminished, their influence questioned, their audacity punished not with action, but with the cold, unshakable patience of one who knows their true strength. Concealment also serves another purpose. It creates anticipation. Those who provoke you are often driven by expectation. They believe a response is inevitable. They hope for retaliation, humiliation, or emotional exposure. By withholding the reaction, you force them into uncertainty. They begin to question their own strategy, to doubt their timing, to fear the consequences of miscalculation. In this way, silence and stillness are not passive, they are instruments of dominance. The world begins to act with caution around you, because power is as much about fear as it is about respect. And fear, subtle and precise, can be cultivated without a single word spoken. The art of concealment requires practice and discipline. It demands that you observe your own impulses and control them with ruthless precision. The first instinct, rage, insult, immediate reprisal, must be overridden by reason and calculation. This is the essence of strategic power, the mastery of self before mastery of others. When you conceal your immediate reaction, you gain time. Time to evaluate the context, time to assess the players involved, and time to formulate a response that is measured, deliberate, and far more effective than impulsive retaliation ever could be. Consider also the subtle methods of concealment available to the modern ruler. A neutral tone, a measured pause, a slight gesture that conveys nothing more than presence. These are tools as potent as swords. They communicate authority without anger, control without conflict, and confidence without arrogance. The observer, the provocateur, and even the casual witness are forced to wonder, what is the true nature of this power? It is a power that cannot be read, predicted, or manipulated through emotion alone. It is a power that commands respect, because it refuses to be dictated by the whims of others. Yet concealment is not weakness, and it is not surrender. On the contrary, it is a prelude to dominance. By appearing calm and composed, you force the world to miscalculate your intentions, to underestimate your patience, and to overestimate the security of their own position. Disrespect, when met with the mask of strategic impassivity, becomes a tool, not a threat. Every slight, every insult, every attempt to provoke is catalogued, observed, and analyzed. You are no longer reacting to the world, you are preparing the world to react to you. Remember that those who fail to conceal their reaction often act in ways that compound their weakness. Immediate retaliation is visible, emotional responses are noted, and impulsive behavior leaves traces that can be exploited by clever adversaries. By contrast, concealment creates ambiguity. It is the uncertainty of the powerful, the unreadable expression that unnerves those who would test you. In this uncertainty lies your advantage, for the mind that waits is sharper than the mind that strikes blindly, and the ruler who controls their reaction controls the battlefield of perception before the first act has even begun. In the final analysis, concealing your immediate reaction is not simply a technique, it is a mindset. It is the understanding that power is measured not by the words you speak, but by the impression you leave. It is the recognition that those who challenge you do so not in ignorance, but in calculation, and that to meet calculation with impulsive emotion is to surrender the first, most essential ground in the war of influence. Mastery of the self is mastery of circumstance, and in concealing your immediate reaction, you claim control over both, setting the stage for all future victories, subtle and overt alike. Disrespect is rarely what it seems. On the surface, it appears as an insult, a slight, a personal affront meant to diminish your dignity. But to the eye of the strategist, it is never mere chaos. It is information, a weapon, a lever waiting to be applied with precision. Those who fail to see the opportunity in offense are the weak, the reactive, the predictable. The truly powerful understand that every slight carries the potential for advantage, and that the skillful ruler does not simply endure offense. He transforms it into a mechanism for asserting dominance, consolidating influence, and reshaping perception. The first step in this transformation is analysis. When someone disrespects you, ask yourself, what motivates this behavior? Is it envy, ambition, fear, or the desire to provoke? What weaknesses are they attempting to expose, and what consequences do they hope to force upon you? To act without understanding is to act in blindness. The Machiavellian mind turns each insult into intelligence, a dataset to be examined for patterns, motives, and vulnerabilities. Every word, every gesture, every whisper of derision carries significance. Recognize it, catalog it, and prepare to turn it to your advantage. Once you have understood the nature of the offense, the next step is transformation. Offense is power in disguise, and the ruler who understands this converts attack into opportunity. This does not mean immediate retaliation or rash action. It means deliberate manipulation. A slight can be used to expose rival factions, to test loyalty among allies, or to provoke the offender into revealing their own weaknesses. By observing their overconfidence, their impatience, or their desire to provoke, you gain insight into the structure of influence around you. The offense becomes a tool to map the ambitions of others, and in knowing them, you control them. Strategic advantage is rarely gained through confrontation alone. Subtlety is key. Public humiliation, controlled isolation, or the careful use of networks can turn the tables without overt action. A sly word whispered to an influential figure, a calculated delay in response, or an invitation that seems innocuous can all amplify the consequences of the original slight. What began as an attack on your authority becomes a vehicle for reshaping the environment, for influencing perception, for demonstrating that the offense was not a threat but an opportunity. The world begins to see not the disrespect itself, but your mastery in responding, and perception, as ever, is the currency of power. To master this art, one must think several moves ahead. The offense is never a single event. It is a series of actions, intentions, and consequences, each interconnected. By strategically leveraging disrespect, you manipulate not only the offender but also those who observe the interaction. Every onlooker, every third party, every potential rival watches closely to see how you respond. By converting offense into advantage, you teach them that any attempt to undermine you is not simply futile but dangerous, for you wield even their provocations as instruments of control. The offense becomes a demonstration, a lesson in power for all who might contemplate challenge. There is also the psychological dimension. Disrespect often seeks to provoke anger, fear, or shame. These emotions are the traps into which the unwise fall. But when you convert offense into strategy, these very provocations become mirrors reflecting the incompetence, audacity, or desperation of the aggressor. Their attempt to manipulate you instead reveals their character, their limitations, and their priorities. You gain clarity, control, and an upper hand. The subtle satisfaction lies not in immediate retribution, but in the quiet recalibration of power that occurs in the shadows, unseen, irreversible, and undeniable once fully enacted. The Machiavellian ruler also understands the timing of transformation. Advantage is seldom gained in the heat of the moment. It requires patience, observation, and calculation. The offense is catalogued, the environment assessed, the players analyzed, and the opportunity awaited. When the moment arrives, the strategy is applied with precision, swift, unavoidable, and perfectly timed. The result is not simply justice or revenge. It is the solidification of authority, the expansion of influence, and the subtle teaching that disrespect carries consequences carefully orchestrated by one who cannot be provoked into weakness. Consider the subtle power of leverage. A single slight can be used to strengthen alliances, reward loyalty, or undermine enemies. When someone insults you, those who align themselves with you observe how you manage it. If handled with skill, your response, or deliberate lack thereof, demonstrates discernment, discipline, and authority. Allies grow more loyal, adversaries more cautious, and the world begins to recognize that offense, when encountered, is not a threat to your power, but an avenue through which your mastery of control is revealed. Finally, the transformation of offense into advantage relies upon the recognition that power is always relational. Respect and influence are negotiated, not granted. Disrespect, then, is a negotiation, a test of boundaries, a challenge to the hierarchy of authority. By taking offense and converting it into opportunity, you demonstrate that you are the arbiter of these relationships. You decide which words, which gestures, and which challenges carry weight. You dictate the consequences. You redefine the terrain of influence itself. And in doing so, you turn what was meant to diminish you into the very mechanism by which your supremacy is confirmed, your enemies reassessed, and your reputation strengthened beyond question. There comes a moment when patience ends, when observation has revealed enough, when silence has served its purpose. This is the moment when the powerful strike, not wildly, not emotionally, but with a cold, deliberate precision that leaves no doubt about who commands the territory. The world respects only results, and results are born from decisive action. A ruler who never acts is a ruler who invites continued disrespect, for leniency without strategy is indistinguishable from weakness, and weakness, in the eyes of the ambitious, is an open invitation to conquest. Retribution in the Machiavellian world is not hysteria, nor rage, nor the theatrics of impulsive retaliation. It is a quiet art. It is the alignment of timing, opportunity, and intention into a single strategic blow. Those who disrespect you must come to understand one lesson: every action carries a consequence. Not immediate, not predictable, but inevitable. For the most fearsome ruler is not the one who shouts, but the one who waits, watches, and acts when the world has all but forgotten the original offense. Such timing multiplies the impact of your retribution 100-fold, for it transforms your response from personal reaction into a display of controlled power. To execute such decisive action, you must first determine what message you intend to deliver. Is it a reminder of your authority? A reinforcement of your boundaries? A warning to others who might consider similar challenges? Or is it a deeper, more calculated move to reshape alliances, alter loyalties, and remove obstacles quietly standing in the shadows? Retribution is not about the offender alone. It is about the audience, the witnesses, the silent observers who measure your response to decide their own course. A single calculated action can silence a room more effectively than 1,000 speeches pleading for respect. Consider how a king disciplines a wayward noble. He does not storm into the hall screaming vengeance. He calls a quiet meeting. He summons witnesses of status. He delivers consequences that seem almost administrative, almost inevitable. And by doing so, he elevates the punishment from personal dislike to political necessity. This is the essence of Machiavellian retribution, the transformation of personal offense into an act of governance, executed with such calm that even the punished cannot claim injustice without appearing foolish. When your retribution feels like the natural correction of order rather than vengeance, your power becomes unquestionable. You must also understand that decisive action is not always loud. Sometimes the strongest blow is delivered in silence, a removal from influence, a withdrawal of support, a lost opportunity that never appears again, a door quietly closed that the offender did not even know they needed. These are the cuts that bleed the longest. Subtle retribution is often more devastating than public punishment, for it disorients the offender. They feel the consequences, but cannot trace the source. They wonder whether their disrespect was the catalyst, or whether they misread the environment entirely. And in their doubt, your power grows. However, subtlety is not always the answer. There are moments when retribution must be visible, direct, undeniable. When someone publicly challenges your authority, a private correction may not be enough to recalibrate perception. In such cases, your response must be decisive enough to remind all onlookers that disrespect is not merely discouraged, it is dangerous. Yet, even here, the execution must be calculated. Public action must never appear emotional. It must be framed as justification, necessity, balance restored. For the crowd admires strength but fears tyranny. The balance between the two is maintained through precision. Retribution becomes powerful when it serves multiple purposes at once. A single calculated consequence can punish the offender, reinforce your authority, increase loyalty among your supporters, and deter future challenges. The key is to design your action in a way that strengthens your position from every angle. The offender becomes an example, your allies become reassured, and your rivals begin to reconsider their ambitions. This is not retaliation, it is strategy disguised as justice. Timing remains your sharpest weapon. The greatest mistake the impulsive make is responding too quickly. The immediate reaction reveals weakness, but the delayed, perfectly placed response reveals mastery. Let the offender believe they have escaped. Let them grow confident, careless, even complacent. Then strike when the lesson will echo. In Machiavellian terms, this is psychological warfare. You are not simply punishing an act. You are shaping the memory of that act into a permanent warning. And remember this: decisive retribution must always be proportionate to your intentions, not the offense. The disrespect itself is irrelevant. What matters is what the disrespect threatens. If it challenges your authority, the response must reinforce authority. If it challenges your reputation, the response must restore reputation. If it challenges your strategic plans, the response must eliminate the threat entirely. Your actions must align with your goals, not your emotions. This is how you turn retribution into power rather than chaos. There will be those who question your methods, who whisper that you are too harsh, too unyielding, too calculating. These are the voices of the naive. Those who understand power know that mercy is a privilege earned by loyalty, not given freely to the disrespectful. A ruler who refuses to act decisively teaches his enemies that boundaries can be pushed, crossed, even shattered without consequence. But a ruler who acts with precision teaches the world that every action is observed, every challenge calculated, and every disrespect answered in a manner that strengthens the throne upon which he sits. In the end, decisive retribution is not a moment, it is a message that echoes through the halls of influence long after the action has been taken, a message that shapes how others approach you, how they speak to you, how they think of you in rooms where your name is mentioned but your presence is not. A message that ensures your authority is not simply recognized but protected by the very fear and respect that your calculated actions inspire. In the end, the darkest way to handle disrespect is not rooted in anger, impulse, or emotional retaliation. It is rooted in mastery. Mastery of perception, mastery of timing, mastery of your own instincts, and mastery of the battlefield that exists in every room you enter. Disrespect is not merely an insult, it is a map revealing ambition, weakness, and opportunity. Those who understand power see every slight as a signal, every provocation as a lesson, every challenge as a quiet invitation to assert dominance with precision. You learn to recognize disrespect for what it truly is, a calculated test of your authority. You learned to conceal your immediate reaction, understanding that the one who does not reveal emotion controls the pace, the tone, and the outcome of every conflict. You learned to transform offense into strategic advantage, turning insults into intelligence and challenges into unwitting instruments of your rise. And finally, you learned the art of decisive retribution, not reckless, not emotional, but timed and crafted so perfectly that it reinforces your power and reshapes the perception of everyone who watches. This is how the powerful survive. This is how they endure. This is how they rise above those who rely on noise rather than strategy. In a world driven by hidden motives and silent ambitions, it is not the loudest who win, it is the most calculated, and the one who handles disrespect with intelligence, with patience, and with dark, deliberate precision becomes untouchable. In the realm of power, respect is not asked for. It is engineered, it is enforced, it is earned through the quiet, relentless application of strategy. And those who dare to challenge you will learn sooner or later that disrespect is a debt, and you are the one who decides when and how that debt is paid.